Venom The Last Stand is going to be, well, it'll be. And rather than make a hyper facetious video talking my shit like usual about the upcoming entry into the Venomverse, we just got the teaser. Truthfully, I just really don't have the energy to talk about things that, I don't care about, or to talk shit about that shit. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you know if I'm prolific for anything, it is being a Sony Spider-Man universe hater. I do not like anything about the whole Sony Spider-Man adjacent universe pretty much after 2004, although I still have love for Spider-Man 3. It's a part of my childhood. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, not so much as Peter Parker, but his Spider-Man was truly amazing, and he's probably my favorite actor of the 3 live-action Spider-Man. But more so, I'm speaking specifically to everything after 2018 in live action. I think it's quite a big waste of time and energy. So what is a rant if you extract the anger from it, players? What is Marcus, heavy on the aura alias, if you extract the Roman Emperor stoic philosopher part and interject soon-to-be 27-year-old South Texan Latino swagman UK drill rapper Wendy's Baconator D1 collegiate tetherball athlete comic concepts into? Well, much like the Sony Spider-Man universe, I have no idea where I'm going with this, or maybe I do, and I just don't have any way to get there. Waffling, it's in the title of the damn video, players. I'll just get into it. So I'll see it enough where people on social media will try to give these movies props for their cinematography and color grading, mostly to contrast or really shit on MCU cinematography, which, hey, who would have thought the company that makes cameras would be any good at that, right? But by all means, that's fair to do. I'd love to see more movies in the MCU be incentivized to be color graded like John Wick, and with that action, come on. But as powerful as imagery is, I don't believe that's enough to make up for the poor characterization, dialogue, or story. Unless you're a film bro who wants all films to work, even as silent films, then, enjoy Morbius, I guess. But my thought process as an unqualified YouTuber who has never directed a movie or written a screenplay in his life, but is still waffling about them every other week, I think if you take a stab at any of those things, but especially dialogue in a movie, you ought to make it good. If you're handling characters that people have been waiting to see in live action, maybe it's possible to have a balance between silly and serious. Maybe if these movies were better, Marvel Studios would actually be more comfortable letting Spider-Man be attached to it, and you wouldn't have to shove a 10-year-old Peter Parker with Roxy as his Aunt May and the lizard pre-arm loss into this movie for whatever reason you're doing that. I have no idea what their thought process is with that, but I do get why the last 2 Venom movies made good money. Like, it's a character you've been wanting to see in live action in potentially a better light for a long time. I love Topher Grace, but Tom Hardy playing Eddie Brock is certainly, an upgrade. Around the time the first Venom movie came out, people were wondering how exactly they would do a solo Venom movie. In 2018, people were wondering heavily if this movie would connect to the MCU, and of course, is Spider-Man showing up? Or is he showing up eventually? The movie comes out, it turns out to not really be that good, and who would have guessed no Spider-Man? Thank goodness though. I knew what to expect from that point, but apparently all you have to do is introduce the second most popular symbiote, Carnage, and people will flock to see it. Even me, 3 years later. 2 days ago for free to make this video, but my assumptions were pretty much dead on. It was pretty dog shit, and I hate saying that because I think this was Andy Serkis's directorial debut, and there were some cool shots, good cinematography and color grading, and I think he did the best he could with what he had, like most of the directors under the Sony Carnival tent. So just like all of them, I don't blame him at all, but this is like Thor Love and Thunder type shit where you go way too hard on the silly, and I love silly, but you already had a poor depiction of Carnage. I don't believe the action is good enough to warrant this movie just being silly fun action. They really kneecap themselves by not making any of these movies R-rated, and they're never beating the donkey brain allegations for giving that honor to Craven. Like, how does that make sense? By the looks of this teaser, it seems these little allusions to Spider-Man, references to the larger Spider-Man world, and cameos will ultimately be for nothing. And now with Venom The Last Stand, you have a symbiote alien invasion with the main symbiote antagonist being Toxin, which, unless you're a pretty avid comic reader, most people aren't going to get hyped for that. Certainly not to the level of Carnage. We got generic military is after him plot led by Variant Mordo. Not really, but you get the gist. Add Chiwetel Ejiofor to the list of another great actor wasted by Sony. We have Kelly Marcel returning as not only writer, but now as first-time director. So respectfully, that's not the most comforting thing to me. Seemingly no real Spider-Man confirmed, with Tom Hardy saying they have their own Spider-Man, which is either in reference to this kid Peter Parker that supposedly he has to protect, or he was referencing referencing Venom as like a Spider-Man-like character, even though he can't really be, and it sucks too because this is legit a good character model for Venom. Carnage design was baller too, but it doesn't look like we'll ever see him fight Spider-Man. It doesn't look like he'll ever get that spider symbol, or we'll ever see this Venom web swinging, which would have been really cool. They didn't even think to give him a blue or like purple tint. The plan for Spider-Man obviously fell through and eventually got thrown out, and now they're just riding the very shit-filled wave. And I think my main problem of the multitude of issues I have with these movies and the way that they're marketed was that it just felt they were such a waste. They really just didn't need to happen. The MCU, when they introduced Venom, which they absolutely never needed this scene to introduce Venom, with the cosmic side of their universe being as robust as it is, they're probably going to go with Matt Gargan Venom instead of Eddie Brock to differentiate themselves from these films. And so we don't really have a MCU Eddie Brock. At least I imagine that's what's going to happen when the Venom symbiote comes around in Tom's movies. I truly would not go back to these movies. They hold no special place in my heart or have any rewatch value to me personally. The humor does not hit for me. I don't think the CGI is all that good. The action could have been something if they leaned into the R rating, but they didn't. They took extremely talented actors once again and didn't really let them go off like we know they can to maybe provide any emotional tethering to these characters that would give some kind of substance to these movies, at least for me. And these are certainly not any stories I'm eager to jump back in again. It'd be one thing if they were never able to use Spider-Man, and in the same way Marvel Studios was unable to use characters like Venom or Kraven, who could have been the villain for No Way Home, which damn, what an interesting timeline that could have been. But if the movies were actually really good and fun, I'd for sure give Sony their props, but they just weren't. So of course, I'm not watching Venom 3 because that would be a waste of my time for me. But look, if you like these movies, or hell, if you just enjoy them, I'm not trying to hate on you for that. If I ever post a rant on something and you feel the opposite way, enjoy whatever you already enjoy despite others' opinions, and especially what I say, players. But I think it's just insane how this universe has ultimately culminated into nothing but waffling for 3 movies. I guess at the end of the day, the thing that might make all these movies worth it, all the money spent, all the time burned, all the copious amounts of waffling, the thing that brings purpose to this particular world is unequivocally, at the end of the day, divorce.